Let me explain everything you need to know about Parking Eye court cases. If you've received a Parking Eye court summons, the first thing that you need to know is that you've got two options. Either defend yourself in court or pay the fine. If you ignore the summons, further legal action could be taken against you. Let me tell you a story about the biggest Parking Eye court case before we get into all the facts. Mr. Beavis became a hero in July 2015 when his case against parking giant Parking Eye Limited reached the Supreme Court, the highest court in the UK. Parking Eye is the biggest private parking operator in the UK, managing over 3,500 sites. Mr. Beavis represented the average British motorist, bravely battling it out against a company allegedly profiteering from innocent mistakes. The sign stated that the parking for the first 2 hours was free, but that anyone who stayed any longer would have to pay a charge of 85 quid. Mr. Beavis stayed for nearly 3 hours. He claimed in court that the charge was too high and tried to rely on an old penalty law. Unfortunately for Mr. Beavis, it didn't quite work out as he'd hoped. The court concluded that the amount of £85 was proportionate to Parking Eye's costs in managing the car parking scheme. A Parking Eye PCN is a private parking ticket issued to a motorist for not paying for parking, overstaying the time limit they paid to park, or not parking correctly within the private car park. When you enter a private car park operated by Parking Eye, you should see signage that states using the car park means that you agree to the terms and conditions of the car park, and by not sticking to these conditions, Parking Eye is allowed to issue you with a parking charge notice. Now, these tickets are currently capped at 100 quid, but are due to be reduced again to a maximum of 50 quid in most cases by 2023. So the big question is, do you legally have to pay Parking Eye fines? As you can see from Mr. Beavis's case, yes and no. Parking Eye is legally allowed to issue motorists with a parking charge notice when they believe that someone hasn't paid to park. The fine must be reduced if the motorist pays within 14 days, and they must allow the driver to appeal within 28 days if desired. However, Parking Eye fines and any other parking charge notice aren't real fines. They're really just invoices for the service that you agreed to by entering the car park. You don't legally have to pay the Parking Eye invoice unless a court orders you to do so. If you don't pay Parking Eye within 28 days, you're likely to receive further payment requests and late fees added to the invoice. This may be chased by Parking Eye themselves, or they could ask a debt collection agency to do the chasing for them. If you continue to ignore Parking Eye, it's likely that they'll send you a letter before action, which is basically a letter asking you to pay or potentially face court action. If Parking Eye did take you to court and win, you'd have to pay the invoice. A Parking Eye court summons is exactly how it sounds. It's a summons to attend a court hearing where Parking Eye will ask the judge to make you pay. You can either defend yourself with or without legal services, or you might not defend yourself and Parking Eye will win an automatic judgment for you to pay, namely a county court judgment, that's a CCJ. If you want to avoid court action, you can contact Parking Eye and pay the fine. Allowing the matter to escalate to court and losing the case will result in further expenses. You can also go up against Parking Eye in court by stating reasons why you think that you shouldn't have to pay. So, for example, you might state that the car park signage didn't conform to legal standards. You might need a solicitor that specialises in private parking cases to help you in your case, if at all possible. Only a court can set aside a county court judgment, a CCJ, but it can be encouraged if the claimant agrees that the CCJ should be set aside. The best way to get a CCJ set aside is to pay. So as you can see, it can be a bit of a minefield. If you don't know what to do and that hasn't helped you make your mind up, then you could speak to an online solicitor like JustAnswer. They offer a £5 trial and then you can bombard them with questions in the online chat about what to do. I'll leave a link below the video, and if you use it, you'll be supporting Thrifty Family, so thank you.